Welcome, everybody. Thanks for being on time. Sorry, I'm starting the session a little late, but just got in from New Delhi railway station a little while ago. Overnight train from Gaya, where I was. Very comfortable journey. Train was pretty much on time. And so today we'll have a session over an hour and a quarter, hour and a half. Let's see how it goes. I'm not, there's no fixed time. I have my tea and biscuits at hand, so I can go on for quite a while. I hope you folks have something near your right or left hands. Yeah. So, Isa, I'm not sure if I know Isa or Brady or Walter or KD, but whether I know you or not, at least I like to mimic what His Holiness Dalai Lama says when he says everyone's like an old friend. There are some old friends here. Rowena is here. And well, she's the oldest friend I have here. And all of you new friends. And we have some friends here at my home in Delhi, where we're having the session, because Delhi's, Tushita is a bit of a quarantine zone at the moment. So we have some, what are they called? Motley crew is one word, but the other one is the usual suspects. Yeah, we have the usual suspects there looking not too guilty. Yeah, in what used to be the dining area, but now it's kind of transformed the last few months since the house has been repainted. So many changes, and you may wonder, you know, why I'm not crying or in a very dull mood. Well, somehow it was never like that with Rinpoche. There was always a bit of humor or laughter. And of course, he could be extremely serious. I'm just starting with an anecdote, then we'll do some meditation before the main session. I remember he gave one story, which is, he said the only time he really cried, or cried in public anyway, and that was when he had taken a group of students to Tibet. I think either the trip in 1987 or could have been a year before or after, but certainly they went in 1987. I remember that because that's the year we completed our land negotiations for Root Institute in Bodh Gaya. And so, of course, Tibet under state of repression for so many years, they were shown around the Potala Palace, which had been His Holiness's palace, of course, his home. And the only reason we have to thank Mao Zedong is that because of him and the communists, His Holiness left that, kind of palace high up in the mountains and came down and with so many people, and now that's why we're here today. So anyway, Rinpoche, of course, inimitably, he'd been able to get hold of a monk. Well, there was a monk there who was obviously quite taken by Rinpoche and was happy to show them around maybe a bit more than they showed the ordinary people around, okay? So there they were in the Potala Palace, okay, in the Potala, this incredible building, constructed, I think, under the reign of the 5th Dalai Lama. The monk escorted Rinpoche and the students to His Holiness's private quarters. There, the monk, who it seemed either he was very old or he had heard the story from one of the elder monks who had been at the Potala when His Holiness came there as a young child at the age of 4 or 5. From his village far away near the Chinese border. And this is very well depicted actually in the film Kundun. the Kundun movie by Scorsese, whom we usually, is associated with more violent movies. But this was a great movie he made on the life of His Holiness until reaching India, that period, with wonderful music by Philip Glass. Anyway, it's shown in that movie, some of the events. Anyway, so this monk was showing Rinpoche and his students around the quarters, and the monk said, when His Holiness came here, he said to some of the monks there or whatever, that, and remember, he's 4 or 5 years old at that point. He says to them, I'm the one who comes back again and again to benefit the living beings, to help the living beings, the suffering living beings. And Rinpoche said when he heard that, he just burst into tears. He burst into tears, explaining that when he heard that story about, His Holiness's great compassion manifesting at that young age, he just couldn't help but cry. And then Rinpoche said, usually I'm very hard-hearted, but when I heard that, I cried a lot. So anyway, otherwise, Rinpoche, I've never seen in any kind of tearful mood at all. Some students saw him like that, of course, when Lama Yeshe, his guru and our founder, passed away in 1984. Then, of course, Rinpoche knew that a person who had inspired so many thousands of students in a most remarkable way had passed away. And so therefore, he knew in a sense, how serious that was. And of course, it depends so much on the makeup, doesn't it? The mental makeup of people. Some people cry easily, some people don't cry at all, some people are in between. So anyway, I don't feel that sad. I feel sad for a lot of other people whom I know are going through a lot. But I don't know, Rinpoche's passing has just made me feel that I just want to put extra effort into fulfilling his wishes, both on a personal practice level, but also that he left us a lot of work to do, quite frankly. Another point was that I remember Trisha, who was the director of Tushita Delhi and then became a nun, she and I were talking to Rinpoche 10 years ago, 12 years ago. Okay, so she was already, I suppose, she was maybe already just about a senior citizen. I wasn't a senior citizen then, by Indian standards, that means. So, it's around the time when a lot of people are thinking, we'll retire soon, that kind of thing. So we were kind of saying to Rinpoche, well, we've been working so long with you and and it's maybe time to retire. And he kind of said, look, you guys, your work is just beginning, it's like you have a lot of work to do yet. Don't for a moment think that you are retiring. So yeah, that was a very direct message from Rinpoche. I think it's not easy to retire when one is working for Lama Zopa Rinpoche. So I sometimes jokingly warn younger students who are very enthusiastic and used to say, oh, I really want to help, I must go and ask Lama Zopa Rinpoche what I can do. And so I say, okay, very good, but just be prepared for an answer that you're not expecting, or be prepared for consequences you may not have been considering when you asked very innocently that question with a very good mind, of course. But in other words, yeah, a lot of work. There's a lot of work to be done because beings have always been suffering. That's the definition of samsara, right? Kind of. And there's a lot of work to be done now in the field, especially of, education, so that the generation that become more responsible for running being on this planet can do something to save a very, very drastic situation. Plus, of course, Mahayana Buddhists would argue any positive inputs we give to people now, and Rinpoche's whole life was about that, just putting positive, liberating inputs into people all the time, that can ripen, you see, in the future, future lives. We can't expect it all to ripen now, can we? But, and just one other anecdote, I'm sorry, just the memories are flooding back, you see. Once we took, His Holiness would visit Bodh Gaya, right? And as a guest one time of the Maitreya project, a lot of prayers were done in Bodh Gaya and so forth. And we were escorting His Holiness back to Gaya railway station. His Holiness had a special bogie put on by the railways, which would take him to Sarnath. His next stop was Sarnath, not far away. So the Varanasi railway station, and then on to Sarnath, where Buddha gave his first teaching, right? So in many ways, it was an incredibly poignant time, because some of you who know Gaya railway station, it is full of people, and this is the cold season. So many people just come there to huddle for warmth, not just people who are there to catch trains. So literally the platform is covered with people. It's not as though they're in waiting rooms. The waiting rooms could only take, I don't know, a few percent of the people there. And it was like that yesterday at Gaya railway station, almost, although not as bad. So here was His Holiness and Rinpoche guiding His Holiness through a mass of people on the platform to his bogie. But before that had happened, His Holiness had been up in the retiring room at Gaya railway station. They had prepared that for a short while. And halfway up the steps to the retiring room, there was a beautiful poster of Lord Buddha, really very well done, Tibetan tradition, and very well done, very well proportioned, and everything was just correct. And I happened to be walking there behind His Holiness and Rinpoche. And so what happened was that His Holiness, Rinpoche made His Holiness stop and just look at the picture, the beautiful picture of Shakyamuni Buddha. And I was right there. So there was, and I'm sure Rinpoche was doing this not for His Holiness's benefit. His Holiness doesn't need good imprints. But there was the picture on the wall. There was the Dalai Lama. There was Rinpoche, and there was me, just looking at what's happening. And this beautiful picture of Shakyamuni Buddha. And Rinpoche said to us, and look, and Lydia nodded, and then they went on. So it's like it's as though Rinpoche and these lamas, their job is to fill our minds with, of course, positive work to do right now in this life, this second, but also planting very powerful seeds for the future. Because who knows when that powerful moment, the full effect of that, who knows when that will ripen in my mind. I'm remembering it now, but it can ripen and give its effect, its full effect, sometime in the future, due to the power of the object. Those of you who remember some of the teachings on karma, the power of the object. Yeah, so a Buddha, one's parents, bodhisattvas, one's guru, of course, very powerful objects. So if one engages in negativity towards them, incredibly negative. If positive, then fantastic. So anyway, and that's another thing that Rinpoche, his whole life, he much to, I think, the dismay sometimes of more so-called modern trendy Buddhists, they didn't like very much Rinpoche's perhaps constant insistence on the importance of holy objects, statues, tankas, paintings, holy objects of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, and their power to influence our minds. Some people who maybe considered themselves very forward-looking and trendy, or thought that, they would emphasize those teachings of the Buddha that suggested that we don't need any statues or paintings, which of course might be true in a purer age. We don't. If you're into deep meditation on compassion and wisdom, renunciation, authentically, then that being doesn't need too many statues and so forth, holy objects. They're already well on the way. But for most of us degenerate people, it's very important to have holy objects. So where I'm sitting, I can see a lovely painting of green Tara that Rinpoche gave me and signed. So that's always an inspiration for my mind, So anyway, let's stop now and do some meditation, and then we'll have some more anecdotes and some prayer maybe, and then some discussion. There's some beautiful prayers have been written for Rinpoche's quick return, and I felt we could look at them. His Holiness has also written one, but in Tibetan, of course. To my knowledge, the English version hasn't yet been made available. But long life prayers from the abbot, ex-abbot Jatu Rinpoche of Namgyal Gompa and Kadro Seringma, they are available. So we'll look at those beautiful prayers, and just looking at them, they're so beautifully written and stay, by these very noble beings. That'll give us a good idea of, better idea who Rinpoche was, what Rinpoche was and is, since we don't consider him in that sense totally gone, he's still with us. Okay, so let's be comfortable wherever you are and whichever country you're in, and welcome if you're from abroad. We have some people here at my home in Delhi, where we'll also be having possibly a streamed little puja this afternoon. So we can bring our attention to the vehicle we have in this life, which of course is mainly the mind, but that's inhabiting this so-called body. So how does our body feel? Are we connected with our body and with the chair or cushion where we are? Bring our attention to that. The fact that we do have this remarkable instrument right now, which, although it can give us a lot of difficulties and pain, is also an extraordinary vehicle, especially according to the Vajrayana or Tantric systems, which realizes it as a very marvelous and the only kind of appropriate body to have in order to engage in the inner practices that bring about enlightenment in as quickly as one lifetime. So we have that kind of body. Anyway, this body right now is, for all of us, feeling a certain way, or we have certain sensations. You can feel the chair, the ground, if your feet are on the ground, the cushion. So just bring the awareness to that, to the body. And already one can sense the breath in the body, which keeps us alive. Rinpoche didn't need to survive with the gross breath when he was clinically dead on the morning of the 13th, but or the 14th. And he was so how come his body wasn't degenerating? Was because he was meditating with the deepest level of consciousness, with the most subtle mind, the most subtle so-called pran or wind that accompanies that most subtle mind, clear light mind, so-called, sometimes called the ground luminosity, the ground consciousness, the primordial mind. So anyway, we bring our attention to the ordinary breath, which is very wonderful in itself. Keeps us so-called ordinary people alive. Let there be a sense of already being aware of the breath in the body and the sense of letting go as we breathe out. Breathing out is very conducive to letting go. And those of us who have had instruction and guidance from Rinpoche or other teachers, other great teachers, we know how valuable, how sustaining that has been. Now, words aren't really adequate there. But what I want us to do is think about people who don't have any guide in their life, who don't have any student who knows something about the Dharma to guide them or to say even a few words about impermanence and how we need to work with our expectations and priorities in life, and how we cannot ever depend totally on anything external, especially how tricky it is to depend on people, on property, on wealth, on ordinary enjoyments. We don't say that they're bad, but we do say that the way we deal with them, with our ordinary mind, becomes a hindrance. A hindrance to what? A hindrance to waking up, a hindrance to joy, a hindrance to truly benefiting others. So some people don't even have that. They don't have a guide, a friend who can point them in the right direction, or who can guide them with some kindness. Some people don't have any kindness in their life. Imagine how that is for young people. They should feel also poor and hungry, trying to scrape together a living somewhere. And you see a lot of that, of course, when we travel in India by train or road. You don't see so much from an airplane. Airplane gives another perspective, a very beautiful one, but we can't see the ground reality, if you like, where we can be a little up in the clouds. So, as Lamas constantly point out, a sense of sadness, sense of renunciation and compassion, these are the great jewels of the Arya beings. You know? To feel that sadness, seeing the state of living beings, rich and poor, obviously, everybody. And one could motivate that although right now, minds like renunciation are very difficult to engender because it requires giving up our obsession with the 8 worldly feelings of pleasure and pain, gain and loss, praise and blame, good reputation, bad reputation. Because of that, it's very hard to engender a genuine mind of renunciation, but it's something we can aspire to. And again, the teachers, including Rinpoche, always, encouraged to read Life of Milarepa, the other great beings, their life stories to inspire us. There are dozens and dozens of these amazing life stories. Hundreds of them, actually. As many not so well-known teachers, their life stories are extraordinary. And how they generated renunciation, gave up just being obsessed about this life and this life's happiness, and how they took the long-term view and used that as a basis to benefit others, benefit themselves, by the way. So think about your friends, your relations, people you know who are kind of bereft of this liberating power of the Dharma. Good people, all good people, all, of course, having the Buddha nature, but somehow so far blocked in their understanding, perhaps, or just haven't yet made the connection. Or, of course, their life circumstances are too desperate. Absolutely no leisure to engage in these kind of investigations. So remembering them, think how wonderful it would be if in my life and future lives I can help people to connect with the Dharma, with the truth. This is the truth, not invented by Lord Buddha. It's discovered, uncovered. So if we're really going to be serious about helping ourselves and others, we need to have a relatively stable mind. So for that, we need to stabilize so that that mind can later be used to meditate on whatever we want, especially wisdom and compassion. So we can use the breath for now to generate a sense of calm, sense of clarity. But in the background, let there be a sense of kindness. So we can meditate for a little while, connect to the breath, not getting caught up in too much thinking. Of course, if you're having happy, virtuous thoughts about Rinpoche, or of course, that's good. Here we're focusing on stabilizing the mind for the time being. So we can be happy with a thought like that, but just gently let it go with a smile and come back to the breath. A sense of letting go spaciously with the out breath. remembering the words of Choki Nyima Rinpoche, a long-term friend and associate of Lama Zopa Rinpoche, when he answered our question about what is meditation, what are the essentials. He replied to us, a beginners group, he said, calm, clear, and kind. Let there be a sense of tranquility, calm, without stress, sense of being clear, awake, clarity, fresh, vivid, and all within the embrace of kindness. Okay. And just to remind ourselves of that wonderful version of the immeasurable compassion, not only how wonderful it would be, not only may it happen, but I myself will enable beings to be free of suffering and the causes of suffering. I myself will do. As Rinpoche used to say, by myself alone. If necessary, you see, by myself alone. That's the courage of the great bodhisattvas. Okay, thank you. Take a break to stand or stretch if you need. Yes. Anybody need? Do you need anything to bring? कोई है इसके पीछे? छुपे हुए हैं लोग. मेन कल्प्रिट्स जो है ना, वो छुपे रह रहे हैं. Okay. So thank you everybody for joining. Well, also we have Sadhana, and she's the oldest acquaintance here. Sadhana there with the glasses, she used to come to Tushita Center in Shantiniketan in 1983, 84. When did you start coming, Sadhana? Was it 84, perhaps? Let me allow you to unmute. what year was it? You used to come for yoga, yeah? I used to pretend to know how to teach yoga. Very funny, wasn't it?
You were very good.
Was it?
You were very good at it.
Yeah. I haven't paid her to say this. Did you ever meet Lama Yeshe, Sadhna? Sorry, you're muted again.
He just passed away a year earlier before I joined Tushita.
Oh, okay. So you joined in 1985.
86, 85, yeah, 85, something like that. It's been a long while, long time.
Another era, isn't it? The pre-internet era.
Yes, that's true.
So we are dinosaurs. We are dinosaurs.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're dying out. Okay. Huh?
Life was so much better.
Friend here, Vivek Ji here is saying life was so much better. Well, maybe. I like fishing out my 60s classics on YouTube at the flick of a switch, I must say. But yeah, I also miss turntables. Anyway, so let's not get too nostalgic here. Yeah, well, thank you, all of you. Also, Ajir Ji is here from Australia. He's visiting his daughter in Australia, another stalwart of our center, and a student also of Dzongsa Rinpoche. And we have Elaine from Pune, Rowena from England, although she's in Delhi right now. Then we have all sorts of people here. So thank you, all of you. So I think we'll start so that I don't start waffling too much with some beautiful prayers which have been put together by great lamas, one abbot and one very accomplished lady practitioner, Hadrula. So, yeah. Okay, anyway. Yeah. All right. I'm just trying to find it since I'm, again, technically handicapped through having been born in the wrong part of the 20th century. Where are we? Message from my aunt. What about lunch? I hope someone's answering that. I don't know about lunch. Okay. So here's the prayer. Oh, wow. Look at that. Sorry, very organized here. Thank you, sir. So first of all, the prayer from Jado Tulku. I think actually we sent over the WhatsApp group.
Shared on the group.
It is shared on the group. Also, Hadrulas is on the group. Oh, this is called. Yeah, Jado Rinpoche is also on the group, right? Yeah. Okay. First, let's look at Jado Tulku's. Jado Tulku is a very great Lama who's very close to Lama Zopa Rinpoche. He was the abbot of Namgyal Monastery in Dharamsala, which means incredibly trusted and close to His Holiness the Dalai Lama as well. And he's always given a lot of advice to us at Tushita and Dharamsala, and also gave a lot of teachings in Bodh Gaya. Through some deficit of something, I don't believe we ever invited him to teach at Delhi Center. Anyway, that may change. Also, Jado Tulku has been very, very energetic in helping to reestablish Buddhism in Mongolia. A lot of effort there. Okay, so this was obviously written very quickly, these prayers, because Rinpoche passed away on the 13th April, and this prayer came out, I think, day before yesterday. So we're talking of very quick response to that. And Jado Tulku says, here's a prayer, for the swift return of Lama Zopa Rinpoche that I've composed with pure intentions. So again, that emphasis isn't there always of what's our motivation, is someone writing it so that they become famous, you know, that, oh, I was the first person to come out with a prayer for Rinpoche's rebirth? No, that wouldn't have been Gyaldo Tulku's intention at all, since he is a very great practitioner. So here in the very first line of this prayer, he's really, I think, hit the nail on the head, as we say. He said, you, referring to Lama Zopa Rinpoche, you who endured the hardships of spreading the teachings of the Buddha in general, and especially the teachings of the Conqueror Manjushri Lord in the 10 directions. So Conqueror Manjushri Lord refers to Lama Tsongkhapa, who was the founder of the Yellow Hat School and who was regarded as an emanation of Manjushri, Buddha of wisdom. Now, there is a lot of hardship in spreading the teachings. There's not much hardship, you could say, in spreading an idea like Coca-Cola or some brand of shoes, you know, in this world, or of fake news. But there's a lot of hardship to spread something authentic, which requires effort. And so Rinpoche spent his whole life doing that, spreading the teachings of the Buddha in general. And not only spreading it, you see, in places where it's already accepted and people have a lot of faith, like Nepal, his Himalayan region where he was born, right? Rinpoche was born not far from Mount Everest. He was a Sherpa. Not about, you know, Mongolia or Japan or China or, you know, Tibet. And of course, Tibet, there is hardship in spreading the Dharma now, but you know what I mean? He and Lama Yeshe and some other great teachers as well, of course, they took it upon themselves to spread Buddhism in the West. And also back in India, where we had forgotten these teachings pretty much. I mean, some scholars wrote about it, but to be honest, the best scholarship that was coming out quite early on was more from the West, because they were getting authentic teachings. From whom? From Tibetan lamas and some great Zen masters like Shunryu Suzuki, who went to the West in the early years, late 60s, early 70s. So Gyaldo Rinpoche is pointing out how Rinpoche went through those hardships of spreading the Dharma, because Rinpoche worked kind of day and night. He had very bad TB when he was young. And I think that weakened his body in many ways, his gross body, not the subtle body, but the gross body. And it made him vulnerable to things. And he was, as I recalled in that other anecdote the other day, he was always in pain, but one would never know that he was in pain because he never showed it. And perhaps he was able to go beyond the pain, given his realizations. But he endured a lot of hardship. There's only one time that I began to understand what his attendant and others had to put up with living with Rinpoche. We had the great good fortune to accompany him to Ajanta and Ellora just before the terrorist attack in Mumbai, 2008. And, you know, you could be having an evening and you had your meal and some discussion and so forth. And then you know, by 10, 11, it's kind of bedtime, right? So we were talking further on, and then around 12:30 or 1 a.m., Rinpoche decides it's time to do something, a puja or something. So then you have to reschedule your mind and your body, which for most of us is, I mean, unless you're a student mugging up for exams or something. But otherwise, most decent law-abiding people are ready for sleep by 11, 11:30, right? Unless you're on a binge on Netflix. So, you know, for Rinpoche to then say, oh, come and do puja, well, you know, or he says, come, I have something, you know, to tell you, or there's a teaching at 1 a.m. And then, you know, you feel what's going on. So, you know, Rinpoche endured, and he taught us, some of us, to endure. I had the great misfortune never to be on a long retreat with Rinpoche, like some students, meaning a month or so. Although I took teachings of one of the Kapan courses from Rinpoche, I didn't ever do a long retreat. people who did that, they constantly said they would be going to bed at 1 a.m. and then Rinpoche would laughingly say, oh, good night now, and meet you again at 5 a.m. for the teaching to continue. So one had to stretch one's understanding of what one was capable of, and not give in to the self-cherishing. That's where the self-cherishing comes up, because we want the pleasure of sleep. And of course, that's the doctors will tell you it's good to like sleeping because it's good for you. But then the question is, in this suffering world, where it's important that people become liberated and become Buddhas, then are we just going to accept our normal limitations and not strive to be more than what we are right now? You know, how do people become good anything? Athletes, for example, if they're not willing to push their bodies further than what they think they can do. So it's the same with the mind. And Rinpoche was constantly doing this, constantly. We'd be invited, as I said before, to a teaching at 7 or 8 or 9 p.m., but it wouldn't start till midnight, you know? And by then, some people would have left. And in a sense, that was deliberate. Rinpoche didn't want people who weren't that serious to maybe be at that particular teaching. He changed later a bit, because after Rinpoche got sick several times, His Holiness the Dalai Lama kind of scolded him kindly and said, look, you have to now spend most of the mornings doing your own practices and resting, and, you know, take it easy. Don't push yourself too much. And so therefore the students also, it became a little easier for the students maybe for a while. But then Rinpoche had a stroke in 2011, as I mentioned before. That also just seemed to increase the power of his teachings. Of course, it affected his voice for some time, but as actually his voice later became more powerful, more unusual, but more powerful and a bit clearer than it had been before. Because Rinpoche would often cough every few seconds for most of his teaching career, or a lot of it, and that would be very distracting to some people. But all students got used to it. Which is, it's like, I don't know, something like digging for iron or gold. And most of what you get is, you know, a lot of what you get is earth, but then if you're really paying attention, then you get the gold, you know, something like that. So Rinpoche was maybe teaching us to pay attention to the main thing. Anyway, holder of the 3 vows. I think that means the vows of individual liberation, the Bodhisattva vows, and the Tantric vows. All essential sets of vows for those who are on really intent on liberation and Buddhahood. Lord of Dharma, clad in saffron robes, reminding us that he was a monk. More maroon robes, but the traditional word is saffron, from probably the Indian tradition. But of course, Tibetan robes are more maroon than saffron. May you quickly return as the matchless glory of the teachings. This is in English. The original Tibetan, apparently, all of these lamas, they use very poetic forms, which cannot be necessarily literally translated into English. Or if they were, it would sound very strange. But anyway, may you quickly return as the matchless glory of the teachings. You upheld the dharma of study and practice through great austerities. Rinpoche had taken on the austere practices that some lamas do, some teachers do, of not lying down, not sleeping, and things like that. He had taken those kind of inner vows. I don't know if he did it in front of one of his gurus or from the Buddha or, you know, whatever. But Rinpoche didn't lie down. He didn't sleep. He would sit up and meditate. And of course, very often he would be conducting pujas at night. If ever he heard that there was some great need or a student was sick or something, then he would do a puja, you know. Didn't matter what time of day or night it was. So yeah, great austerities, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, imagine he spent most of his life in the upper Himalayas. So then with most of the Tibetan monks, many of them, he came down to the plains after the Chinese invasion of Tibet, and they were in this camp in Buxa, which is in Assam, which had been a former prisoner of war camp. It was converted into a camp for the lamas. they just carried on their studies there. Rinpoche got TB like so many other lamas. Many of them died actually. But Rinpoche got TB and was weakened. Still, he took these vows of austerity. There are many stories about Rinpoche. He almost drowned when he was a very young boy in Nepal, and apparently he was saved by a Westerner. There was a Western American student on the side of the river where he was drowning. And Rinpoche, in a kind of modest way, but also to show, I think, his realization, he said, as a young man at that time, as a young boy, he was, I don't know, 7 or 8 or 9, something like that. He had this thought as he was drowning. Now, this being called and he was called the Laudo Lama. That was because he was the great Lama in his previous life, and where he was a place called Laudo. He had this thought as a young boy drowning. Now, this person called the Laudo Lama is going to drown. That's the thought he had. No panic, like, oh, I'm drowning. This person called the Laudo Lama is now about to drown. Just kind of matter-of-fact thought. But he was saved, luckily for us, by this student who saw him, by this person, I don't know, maybe a trekker or something, who saw him drowning. This would have been early to mid-50s. Rinpoche was born probably 1946, so this would have been in the mid-50s, yeah, before he went up into Tibet to study or whatever. Yeah, so you upheld the Dharma of study and practice, not just studying, because Rinpoche was a very good scholar. He never got any Geshe degree. But you could tell by the way he taught and his quotations and the way he debated with people that he was an excellent scholar. He understood very deeply the teachings. But of course, he's renowned for his practice. And his very name, Zopa, is the translation of Shanti in Sanskrit, which is the patience. Patience, his name, the perfection of patience. So he practiced a great, his life was a manifestation of the practice. Many people here whom we'll hear from soon, I hope, some of the people here will, whatever people tell us, it's all about his amazing practice. Unable to bear transmigratory beings who are suffering and are confused by the darkness of ignorance, with great love, you skillfully establish them in happiness. May the incomparable sun of Dharma quickly return. So yeah, Rinpoche had that sense. He found, like the great bodhisattvas do, the sufferings of beings as kind of unbearable, and wanted to help as much as he could whoever was suffering, and of course confused by self-grasping ignorance. So we're in the darkness of ignorance. Many memories from Bodh Gaya, like whenever Rinpoche would go to the school, or sometimes when Rinpoche would walk to the Root Institute school, it's called the Maitreya school, from the Root Institute gate. It's only about 40, 50 meters. There would often be a beggar or somebody at the side of the road. Rinpoche would never go past a beggar, right, unless he was in some tremendous hurry to get to a teaching of His Holiness or something like that. He'd always stop for a beggar and give them something. Always ask Roger or someone with him for something to give that beggar. And if there was nothing to give physically, Rinpoche would always anyway be giving blessing prayers, as he gave to all those dead dogs on the road I was talking about as we travel by car from Ajanta Ellora to Mumbai back in 2008. Some dead dogs run over by speeding traffic. Rinpoche always have us stop and pray for those dogs which had been run over. So whether alive or dead, of course. So Rinpoche would always stop and help people in whatever way he could. With great love, you skillfully establish them in happiness. Yeah. Of course, we often don't recognize the happiness. We just see the hard work or the fatigue. But then we realize when our better moments, how much Rinpoche has actually helped us create the causes for happiness, like the prayer says. Not just, you can't just say, oh, may I enable beings to have happiness. I mean, what about the causes of happiness? That has to be clear. We have to know the causes of happiness and help beings engage in that. And that's what Rinpoche did every moment of his life. May the incomparable sun, the sun of the Dharma, not S-O-N, but S-U-N, like a sun. And that's what he told the children at our school in Bodh Gaya, which I had to translate Rinpoche for, which was quite embarrassing, because the first thing he says in this talk to people, the parents of the children as well as the children, he said, the main purpose of education is not to get a job, but to, the child to become like a sun for others, like like sunshine for others, to bring happiness for others. So, I had to translate what Rinpoche said, but I felt a bit, are they going to throw rotten eggs and tomatoes, because there's a lot of poverty, or at least imagined poverty. By imagined, I mean people feeling impoverished. And so for someone to say in front of them, oh, we're not educating your kids really so they can just get jobs and support you in your old age. We want them to be people who bring happiness. Of course, having a job is a way to bring happiness, but Rinpoche is making a point. What is the main point of education? You are adorned with the ornament of supreme patience of spreading the practice, again referring to Rinpoche's name. The practice of what? The authentic supreme teachings of the Buddha, conqueror of ignorance, through study, contemplation, meditation. We hear this again and again, don't we? We have to study, we have to reflect, contemplate, and we need to meditate. And that's what Rinpoche taught. Whether you were having a meal with Rinpoche, in which case you would reflect and meditate before eating, and that would often take 20 minutes, sometimes half an hour. So you'd have to put up with cold food, but you would feel good because you've done a meditation with Rinpoche. So whatever he was doing, he was constantly emphasizing those three things, which are emphasized again and again in the Bodhisattvayana. In all Buddhism, of course, but I don't know the Pali terms, but there are Pali terms for all of this. Study, contemplation, meditation. All the transmigratory beings, he led all of them onto the correct path. So may the qualified Venerable Guru quickly return. It's a short, wonderful prayer, which has everything in it, really. What Rinpoche did, what he was, and requesting him, therefore, to come back. I'll just quickly go through Kadrula's. It's so beautiful. She composed this on the plane, the aeroplane between presumably Delhi and Kathmandu, because she has now gone to Kapan Monastery to help with the embalming process. Ling Rinpoche, the great Ling Rinpoche, reincarnation of the senior tutor of the Dalai Lama, suggested that the body be embalmed. And so His Holiness the Dalai Lama was consulted. He said, yeah, very good idea. So that because Rinpoche was so well known and had so many students and also new students, it was felt good and it would create inspiration for people to be able to visit Kapan and to see Rinpoche's holy body there. So the embalming process, as far as I know, started yesterday. Some of the initial processes involved with that, because Rinpoche, apparently his consciousness, his subtle consciousness, left his body day before yesterday night. So then one can engage in the embalming process, because the consciousness, all of the levels of consciousness have now left the body, or at least all the ones we're aware of. So what did Kadrula, this one amazing lady practitioner who her own life is very fascinating. I think it's been written up somewhere, but she's someone who went through tremendous suffering and beatings, and until her, you could say, her destiny was awakened by hearing and listening to the Dalai Lama, and then all of the virtuous seeds which she had in her mind were ripened very quickly, and she was recognized as a very highly realized person who then became very close to the Dalai Lama and other lamas, including Rinpoche, and whose prayers and all were sought by many, many great lamas, and who is regarded as Tara, as an emanation of Tara, Buddha Tara. Anyway, what did she write? She wrote, Lama, you know, Lama, you know. This is translation of Lama Kieno, which is a kind of, it's opening to some of these prayers of return and prayers which are called calling the Lama, calling the Guru from afar. So meaning Lama, you know, or Lama, hear me, something like that. But it means that you're invoking someone who knows the truth, who knows you, who knows how to help, all of that. You're invoking someone who can actually, who is a valid object of refuge, I think. I beg you to listen to me, gentle root Lama. I appeal to you with a sudden, desperate request. Don't deprive us of your compassionate refuge. Lama, you are the blessings of the Buddhas of the 3 times. Even though you are now in the great pervasive bliss of the unobstructed sphere of clear light, it is now that we need your great compassion. So at the time when she wrote this, Rinpoche was still in meditation, and that's the reference to the great pervasive bliss of the unobstructed sphere of clear light. It is said that great practitioners, when they access the pure, the most subtle level of consciousness, the clear light consciousness, it's a very blissful consciousness by nature, because I think partly because it's just not associated with any of the degenerated or gross states of mind. So it's naturally blissful. And that's the state of mind the great lamas use to meditate on emptiness, on the truth. So then it becomes extraordinarily powerful. So Rinpoche was in that kind of meditation when she wrote this. Now, of course, he's come out of that, at least out of the body. He's still in that state, you could say, but not in his old body. I can't say where Rinpoche is now, where his consciousness is, but if one regards him as a Buddha, as we're encouraged to, then his consciousness pervades space. Dharmakaya pervades space. Anyway, it's now that we need your great compassion. So it's not enough for Rinpoche to be in the Dharmakaya because we have no access to that with our limited minds. And there's no help for most of us, even if he's in the so-called body of light aspect, the Sambhogakaya, because that's only accessible by high-level bodhisattvas. So what do we need? People like you and me, well, I guess most of you on the screen and me, we need a physical form body that we can relate to, who can, smile at us, pat us on the head, or scowl at us, whatever we need at that point. That's what we need. We need a physical embodiment. Quickly emanate the supreme body of the transcendental wisdom emanation from the various emanations of the dance of the great compassion of the supreme mind. So that, I bet the Tibetan there is quite complicated. It's quickly put together by a very dear friend, translator from Italy, Fabrizio. So he quickly would have translated this, but not easy. Anyway, basically it's saying, isn't it, that we want an emanation out of the most subtle form of your mind, which is the Dharmakaya. Like the Buddhas do, they emanate grosser level bodies for people like us. So please do that. That's basically what it's saying. Arise, arise, return from the sphere of the body of truth, the Dharmakaya. Yeah. I invoke you, I invoke you, I invoke you for the sake of beings. Don't remain in the pure land of the Dakinis and the other pure lands. So the day she wrote this could have been the Dakini day. Anyway, yeah, I think it was yesterday, actually. Yeah, today's the 16th, is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, so this was written just yesterday, which was a so-called Dakini day, the 25th day of the lunar month in the Tibetan calendar. So being written on a very auspicious day. And so she's also saying to Rinpoche, don't stay in a state of bliss, like in heaven or some pure land. Please return at once to make the scriptural and realization teachings flourish. So scriptural means making us aware of the teachings of the Buddha and other great Indian and Tibetan scholars, the words, the meaning of the words, but then realization as well, which means, the deepest understanding of the words, like with the wisdom consciousness, like we have in the 4 reliances. don't rely on the superficial meaning, but on the deeper meaning, and rely on it with a wisdom mind. So these teachings, only people like Rinpoche can spread, because they've realized it themselves in that way. The rest of us can just mouth what we've heard, or the intellectual understanding we have. Rinpoche had realizations, so he can teach that. Who are the beings of the south? It doesn't mean being south of the equator. It means the southern continent in the old cosmic way of looking at the world, Jambudvip. So it includes Finland and England and us, but in India we might feel a bit proud that we are south of the equator. But I think this refers to everyone. Are we south of the equator? Hold on, we're not. We're not south of the equator in India, are we? No, we're 28 degrees north in Delhi. I'm sorry. No, we're not. Otherwise, this would just be Australians, South Americans, and so forth. So, of course, this is everybody in this continent, on this earth. Come back right away, because the desperate beings are kind and are desperately calling you. The desperate beings are kind. Yeah, referring to kind mother sentient beings. They're desperately calling you. They want to see you. They want to be blessed in body, speech, and mind. I don't need to talk about this. It's very clear what she's saying. It's a kind of cry from the heart, isn't it? Miss Kadrula was very close to Rinpoche. She loved Rinpoche very much. Really honored him. We are the sentient beings hallucinated and confused by the conception of ignorance in the sphere of the luminous emptiness of the three bodies. We confess the samayas that we've degenerated. So referring here to the promises to the Guru that we've made and have not kept properly. So we need to confess that very carefully and thoroughly and purify to have a pure relationship in the future with the Guru, and also to act as a cause for the Guru to reincarnate again. Why should a Guru reincarnate if all of his students don't follow his advice and break their promises? There's just no point. So the Guru comes back in a very clear, powerful emanation when people are keeping their promises. Let there be the auspiciousness of emptiness and compassion, the supreme auspiciousness of all auspiciousness. Again, she's reminding the students here that what is the most auspicious thing we can do? What is the point? The point is to realize emptiness and bodhicitta, great compassion. That's the point of all of this. Let there be the auspiciousness also of the quick meeting of the disciple and the Lama. So that's very profound, and it's a very profound, powerful thing in the Indian tradition. The whole Indian tradition. Culture is based on Guru-Chela relationship. Whether you're learning the sitar or any other instrument, or yoga or spiritual teachings, it comes down to Guru-disciple. That's the most powerful one. By the power of the truth of the unchanging reality, may the perfect reincarnation quickly appear. So again, it's like we're invoking something which is the most powerful, which is the truth. Through the truth of things, may the incarnation appear. And here this is the only time I've heard her refer to herself as a Dakini. So again, no false modesty here. She's saying, look, she's kind of reminding us she has the authority to say what she's saying. She's not just anybody making this prayer. She's a very special being. She's a Dakini with pure faith, in sorrow and weeping in despair. And I have here on this photocopy a picture of her in the airplane, I think, because she was composing this with her hands joined. Would have been a photo taken by Fabrizio. Due to the blessings of the three roots, may the wishings of this beggar, referring to herself as a beggar, be fulfilled. Object, subject, action in the sphere of the reality of luminosity and bliss. Again, a teaching for the students. The object, the subject, and the action all are empty of inherent existence. They're all part of the reality of the clear light, luminosity, which is conjoined with bliss. Ah is the primordial seed syllable. sometimes written with an H as well, perhaps after it, but They say all of the wisdom teachings of the Prajnaparamita, they are there in the 100,000 verses, in the 10,000, 8,000, and in the Heart Sutra. But the most concise version of the teachings on ultimate truth is one syllable, So there's an at the end of that line. So, and she said, on the special day of the Dakini, in a state of great distress, these prayers came to Yogini Hadroserigma, again, referring to herself as a yogini. It's great. Prayers. I would like to hear some feedback from people who had experience with Rinpoche, please, to inspire other people. I've said what I need to say for now. Just want to check if you can unmute yourselves. Yes, you can. And Thamden Shringla, Thamden Shringla has written. Thamden La, I think this is the Thamden La who is in Delhi. Thank you. I was fortunate to get Rinpoche's blessings and teachings many times. Yeah, may he have a swift rebirth, his wishes and dreams flourish. Yeah, those of you who had even one teaching from Rinpoche, it was quite special for people. It's quite special for people. Who was it I was thinking of? Yeah, I mean, my uncle, various people had brief connections with Lama Zopa Rinpoche. Even our cook here at home, Jagdish, one day he was able to cook some, I think, ragi rotis. Anyway, some kind of rotis and other delicacies for Rinpoche. And Rinpoche sat just here at the end of the table and ate with relish what Jagdish had prepared. So that was very nice for him, our cook. Fortunately, my other family members were not here on that day. None of them. My father met Rinpoche and was, I think, impressed, although not as touched as he was by Lama Yeshe, because Lama Yeshe offered my father some alcohol the first time he met him. So that was very special for my father, getting some alcohol on his palm, blessed tantric alcohol. Rinpoche didn't offer Daddy any alcohol, offered him a book, advice from a spiritual friend. But of course, my father often asked about Rinpoche's health, and he was very touched by him, that's for sure. Yeah. Yeah, so please, is that lady Di from England is there on my screen? If so, she'll have some stories. Rowena will have stories. A lot of you will have stories. So please share something of your experience with Lama Zopa Rinpoche. Don't be shy, people. No? Nobody. I think Abhishek, is that Abhishek Joshi ji there? If so, you have something to say, that's for sure.
I will share.
Who's this?
Can you hear me? My name is April.
April, hello. Where are you speaking from? Hi.
I'm in Mexico right now.
Mexico, wow.
But I live in Canada.
Okay, welcome, please.
Thank you. I did not meet Rinpoche in person, but I had the fortune to be connected to a group in Vancouver, Canada. Beautiful Sangha that I started with my spiritual journey with. And my very first teacher, I don't know if any of you would know her. She was Anila Ann McNeil. She's passed away now a number of years, but I know that she had a really special relationship with Lama Zopa, and because of Lama Yeshe.
Yes.
and she opened a center in Australia, etc., and so on. But I know that I was remembering how, and I just wanted to share this with you. I remember the last time she went to San Francisco was especially to go and see Lama Zopa. This was before she passed away herself. And when she came back, I asked her how it went. And I don't know, I guess these words still ring dear in my heart. And she said, it was magical. And that was the last time she saw him. So I was so happy that she was able to do that, because I believe she wasn't that well already herself at that time. And so anyway, I'm just very grateful to have had some type of connection through her with Lama Zopa. And so my heart is very full of love and gratitude, even though I never met him in person. And so when I heard of his passing, and even today I was talking to my sister, and it's really interesting because I now have an Indian guru, like Hindu guru, but you know, it's really interesting, just the whole guru disciple relationship in whichever form, and I think in whichever way it is that we get connected is really amazing. Because I felt like crying, and I thought, you know, I never met Lama Zopa, but I just had this very strong feeling of connection right now, and so I wanted to join you guys.
Thank you so much. Thank you for doing that. Thank you.
Thank you.
So glad you met Anne McNeil. She was a great pillar in those early years, I heard. I think I only met her once or twice, but she was very important person in the early years. Those who want to know more about her should read Big Love, which is the massive biography of Lama Yeshe. So there'll be more about her, and of course the early years with Rinpoche and Lama in those 2 volumes of Big Love. Yeah. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for letting me share.
My pleasure. Anybody else? Please. Anybody amongst the Indian Sangha? No? Okay. I'm sure there'll be plenty of time later, and we'll probably, I think the thought just came to me, but it seems like a good one. We should, from the Tushita Delhi side, since Rinpoche had so much to do with Tushita Delhi, we're very fortunate. We've been at the crossroads here, people coming and going from Dharamsala and everywhere. So Rinpoche would have passed through Delhi so many times, especially in the early years before he spent more time in the United States. So we should put together a little booklet with some of the teachings he gave in Delhi and anecdotes and some photographs. That could be our little contribution. And I'm sure our director, Dr. Anuka Singh, will be very happy with this. She's brought out so many books with His Holiness. She'll be able to help us with this. But anybody else would like to share? Rowena? Guy? Some English students?
Just one small thing.
No.
Can you hear me?
Who's this?
This is Joy. I'm speaking from Bangalore in India.
Ah, Joy, please. Yes.
So I only had the good, thank you. Thanks so much for really good anecdotes. So I only had the good luck of meeting Rinpoche twice, like at least seeing Rinpoche twice. The first one was in Tushita itself, like maybe more than 10 years ago, 2011 or 2010 something. So I came with my father, and Dalai Lama always gave a teaching on in January in Delhi
Yeah.
in those times, I guess.
Ah,
So it was just
uh-huh.
one day before that, and he was visiting the center. So we had the good fortune to see him when he was
In
just visiting.
Tushita
Yes,
Delhi.
yes, in Tushita
Oh.
only. In 2010 or 2011, something of this time.
Hmm.
So
Very
that
good.
was the first time, and of course he was there also in His Holiness's talk as well the next
Hmm.
day, which was on a Sunday, I guess, or Friday, Saturday, something like that. That was
Right.
that was the first time, and it was really good. Like his presence was so important, like so perfect. Like you just felt like bowing, even though you'd never met him before. It was so
Right.
powerful, in fact.
Right. Right.
It was really like magic. In fact, I never seen someone like that before. That was the first time, and the second time was in the CKSL, which is in Bangalore. There's a FPMT
Hmm.
center called
Hmm.
CK. So he came there and he gave a teaching and some blessing there as well, some initiation. So I was very fortunate to attend that in Bangalore. He was very kind, and he accepted everyone without any kind of reservations. And everyone who came to him, he gave the blessing, and he's very open. And of
Hmm.
course, he was talking, and he was still giving a very powerful teaching, just like you mentioned, Kabir. It's such
And
a person.
what did your father think of Rinpoche?
Like I'm so glad that I actually saw Rinpoche. Like he wouldn't have a chance to see him, so he also bowed to him. So he could see
Hmm.
he could see the presence, the energy which was
Hmm.
radiating from him at that time.
Hmm.
Like he was only there for a short time, but still he was such a powerful presence and so much kindness, so much compassion radiating out
Hmm.
from him.
Hmm. Hmm.
I'm really glad that my father even had a glimpse of Rinpoche's kindness.
Hmm. Wonderful. Thank you, Joy. Thank you very much. You're still connected with CKSL, I hope.
There to some extent. I don't go that often, but sometimes I do go. It's still running and it's still going strong.
Yeah, yeah. Please do. Yeah. Are you teaching? Are you studying? Are you working? What do you do?
I work in Bangalore. I work for a software company called Ericsson. So
Yeah.
I just work in IT in Bangalore.
So I wonder if you'll be one of the people who later gives up software and goes into organic farming, like I.
I know many people do that in Bangalore.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any of the younger students who only met Rinpoche recently like to share anything? Nivita? Or, of course, Ajirji, you will have memories of Rinpoche. We haven't heard anything from you, Ajirji. I think you should say something as an elder student. Oh, you are wearing maroon today. You are muted, sir. Still muted. Is your daughter there? She can help you. Anyway, I know that Ajirji has had a lot of connection, and I remember Rinpoche offering, was it a Buddha statue or something to Ajirji at Tushita Delhi in our present premises about 10, 12 years ago, maybe, a bit more maybe, thanking Ajirji very much for his contributions. Yeah, I'm sure. And Ajirji, of course, is from the same village as Kunu Lama, the great Kunu Lama Rinpoche of Kinnaur district of Himachal, a great bodhisattva who also taught His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And so there's that common lineage, in a sense. Both Ajirji and Rinpoche are kind of students very close to the Kunu Lama and His Holiness. Sorry, Ajirji, that your technology in Australia is, I don't know, a little deficient? Or is it something our side? No, people can unmute. Anyway, maybe something there. Okay, well, we're going to stop soon. Ah, oops. What's that? Is that you, Ajirji?
Yeah, do you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
And you are
Yeah, I think I'm
moving
using my
around.
phone.
Do that, whatever.
Yeah,
We can hear you
yeah.
loud and clear.
I think there is a problem with my laptop. Little
Just
bit
carry
cold
on.
also.
Oh,
Melbourne is having a 13 degrees, so it's a cold.
you're in the wrong hemisphere, sir. You should come back to
Yeah,
India.
yeah. I think I find that whether in India, whether in Australia, life is always on the wrong side.
You are too attached to your daughter and the creature comforts at home, sir.
No, no,
Come
no,
back
no,
to-
no, not
Come
that.
back to Chandrapur.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's my meeting with the Rinpoche. I really don't know. It really goes back many years.
Mm.
I used to visit Tushita Meditation Center
Mhm.
in different locations,
Right.
uh, except Shanti Niketan. I think I attended and visited all the Tushita centers.
Mhm.
And my longest association was when it was in Patel Nagar,
Oh, wow.
West Patel Nagar, and Venerable Rene was the
Vinay was there, yes.
spiritual director. So we became very close, and I was a regular visitor. And he organized, as Joy was mentioning just before, the annual teaching by His Holiness.
Right.
So I think I was part of that group when it was organized. I still remember once it was in modern school,
Yes.
in a big auditorium. Once it
Yep.
was in the Constitution Club. So my association with Rinpoche goes back to that time. In fact, when I used to attend the teachings or the sessions in Tushita, a lot of questions used to come. And I thought that I need to sit with Rinpoche whenever possible and ask the questions. In fact, when I happened to meet, it really appeared as if I have no questions in the mind. I mean, all those questions really disappeared. And this happened with many of my teachers. I was with the Thich Nhat Hanh in 2008 for 30 days. We used to sit on the same table, eat this. Very surprisingly, he never talked to me. I never talked to him. But I think the presence was so overpowering. So I think it was really his presence which really spread like the sunshine and took away all the worries. It looked like that.
But what happened to the questions, Ajivji? Did they disappear?
Not
Hey.
necessarily. Not necessarily. Yeah, they like in Shamatha, the defilements remain on the carpet. Similarly, I think in his presence they remain all. They went all the bottom down of my mind. It was there, but I think the presence was really overpowering. I think that is one. And the second is that when Chantal was in charge in Tushita Hoskas, once in winter we were having a weekend retreat. Beautiful sunshine. I still remember it was around 1 o'clock. Very, very soothing sunshine. And we were all doing walking meditation in the corridor, from the gate to the... and suddenly there's a car which stopped and we found that Lama Zopa descended from that. And he really blessed every one of us. And Chantal also was a bit surprised. She said that she had no information. So When does he appear? Where does he appear? Why does he appear? I think it's very difficult to understand, but he really appeared in his own way. You
No,
mentioned
thank
about the
you.
teaching at the odd time.
Yeah,
My nephew, you know his name, Gyan, who works in Himachal,
right.
he wanted to do meditation. So I said that I think Tushita Dharamshala, you should go. It's a very nice place. And he happened to go to the teaching was by Rinpoche. And he said that after the dinner, everyone was in the big hall. And Rinpoche kept on speaking. At 12:30, he gave a very hearty laugh. Ah! So everyone was a bit surprised at what has really happened. So he said that the text which I was to teach, I have forgotten, I have not brought. Let us meet at 4 o'clock in the morning. So he said that they were all back 4 o'clock in the evening. In the morning. I think he had his own way of really putting the things. And I think what I really marvel, I think the 40, 50 pages of the Bodhisattva attitude really describes the difficult times he has really undergone, including, as you have mentioned, he was brought to Delhi, he was in the TB hospital, but I think his focus to have Dharma, spread Dharma, was really invincible in his mind. I think that determination. So no wonder he says that the obstacles should not be seen obstacles on the path of spiritual transformation. They should be seen as opportunities and should be used as an opportunity to overcome. I think it's a really very great. I think he has put that in his life practice. That was there's an embodiment of that. In fact, I think recently I was just watching a show. This was in America. This is the competition of the best singers. There was a gentleman. He was Africa, but he was American. He was 67 years old, and 37 years he was in the prison, and he sang so beautifully. And all the judges were really surprised that how is it that you landed in prison? He was in jail for 37 years. He said that he was taken in the jail when he was 29 or 30. He had no money to really defend, and he had to live in the prison. And one of the judges asked, "Wow, 37 years in the prison, and you are singing so beautifully." Then he said that, yes, I was in the prison for 37 years, but I didn't allow the prison to come in my life. Probably, I think all these great lamas, whatever the difficulties they have felt, they have never allowed to come in their spiritual journey and dharma spread. I think Lama Zopa really embodies that. I think, yeah, thanks for my prayer to him, my prayer to him.
Thank you, Ajivji. Thank you so much. Wonderful. Maybe we can stop there with that wonderful piece of advice and comment. We'll be having a puja, which I think we'll be zooming it, right? So we'll be zooming a puja that will start at about 5 p.m. People are welcome to join. That would go on for a long time. At the end, or whenever people could share, or we'll be having a break or two. So in the breaks, people can share experiences if they want. No. So meanwhile, thank you to everybody who joined. and we can remember the main purpose is for us to create the cause, you see, to have such great beings in our lives. They wish to help us continuously. That's their job. But often we are a little bit closed. So we have to open our minds and make sure that we are really wanting the Guru to appear and guide us. So we have to prepare our minds. So may sessions, the session we just had, may it inspire us to really want the Guru to appear, who is none other than, of course, the purity of our own mind. But we need the outer Guru to remind us of that and to inspire us to awaken the inner Guru, the Buddha nature, the ever-abiding but temporarily hidden Buddha nature. So, we can pray and aspire that that happens. So we can also dedicate that all of the activities happening right now in Kapan bring the desired result, which is a swift and powerful reincarnation, is able to subdue our unruly minds and inspire us with the Dharma. And that before that, there's all the embalming process and so forth is most successful and achieves the purpose it is being engaged in for, which is to bless and inspire the suffering mother beings, act as a pilgrimage place for students and anyone who happens to go there. So in this way, may we be able to always be connected with authentic teachings and authentic teachers. That's very important. Rinpoche's life shows that we need such beings to remind us and guide us, inspire us, because left to our own devices, often we go very badly astray. And then, according to the teachings, we could be separated from the Dharma for unbelievable eons of time. So may the purpose of our prayers be fulfilled, and to quote Kyabje Rinpoche, briefly, may the qualified venerable Guru quickly return. Thank you, everyone, very much. Take care. Have a good day. See some of you later.